Our guest speaker today is Gulla from CivicLex, and I'm just gonna give the floor to Megan. And Megan, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I'm glad to be here. I'm with CivicLex. I've been with CivicLex for about, let's see, 2021, about going on 3 years, I believe, 3 or maybe, I think it's my third year. But CivicLex is about 4 years old now, and we're a civic education organization here in Lexington, Kentucky. Our executive director is Richard Young. A lot of you probably know him and have worked with him in the past. So we're sort of the go-to people. We've got a lot of other Vistas and interns from UK and EKU working with us. So if you know of anyone who would like to do this work, we're always looking for other partners and students who want to help us out, or if you're starting out your career, you're interested in doing AmeriCorps Vista or something like that. We do employ a lot of Vistas and interns, so that's something to keep in mind. So just for a little bit of background information, what is CivicLex? Our mission statement, basically, we're a nonprofit civic education and media organization that brings daylight to the issues, policies, and procedures impacting Fayette County. And we envision a Lexington in which all residents are able to meaningfully participate in the decisions that shape where they live. So we sort of believe that, there are a few people in Lexington that really know how to work the system and know, who to talk to and how all these processes work. But there are a lot of us that don't. And so our work tries to make that more accessible, make those processes and the sort of power relationships more accessible to more people in Lexington. And we do that through improving access to information about how our city works. So, later in this presentation, I'll go over all the things that we do sort of in that end. And then we work to change the city processes that govern how it interacts with residents. And then we want to democratize who has relationships with the people in city government that have political power. So again, a lot of our programs sort of, fit into those different buckets, and I'll continue to talk about them. So our engagement tiers, let's see, I don't know, probably this in the way of a little bit, but there are sort of 4 groups that we think of when we think of who our audience is when we're trying to define our audience. So there's the very engaged, which, a lot of those people are probably working in government or government adjacent, or just, very aware people living in Lexington. So they're sort of already plugged in, but they're still part of our audience. We're really focused on the somewhat engaged and the likely to engage, people who are interested, maybe have a few key issues that they follow, but maybe don't know how to plug in, or don't know who they should talk to, how to get involved more if they would like. So those are the people that we really want to try to reach and bring into our work. And then there are people who are the sort of not likely to engage, who just don't care, and that's okay, or they have too much going on. It's just sort of not on their radar, and they're not really wanting to get more engaged. So that's okay. So we're focused on those 2, and then the third, the very engaged, are kind of, we already have those people. So that's sort of our audience and how we think of our audience. Our civic sectors. Hold on, I'm gonna try to see. I'm gonna move this guy and minimize it. There we go. Yeah, I can see better. So this is kind of how we think about how the city, city government is organized. We base this on, this is how we look at the budget, and we sort of divide up funds that are in the budget into these different sectors. It's not exactly how you'll see it in the budget, but it helps us make sense of it. And if you ever want to come to one of our budget workshops, we can explain how we came about these, how we sort of developed and incorporated these sectors. But we pretty much look at it as, as you're seeing, ag and food, arts and culture, community design, streets and roads and all of those kinds of things, development, housing, economic development, education, just what you see here. So that's kind of how we think about what government does in our community. And then what do we really do? So we think of ourselves as having 4 kind of main program buckets, I guess. So we have civic action, education, civic reporting, creative intervention, and participatory research. And we'll go into these now. So civic action education, you might have read our weekly newsletter. It's the CivicLex Weekly. So we'll talk about city meetings that are happening, sort of explain a few city meetings, maybe the bigger ones or the ones with maybe the issues that more people are probably following. We find that any meeting with involving the police or involving a lot of budgetary things. We had one that was really popular We were talking about this morning. It was like the city selling some of its buildings or potentially selling some of its buildings was really a highly read issue. So anything that the city is kind of doing in major meetings, we follow a lot of committee meetings, that kind of goes in the CivicLex Weekly in the city calendar. So you can go on that and find out what meetings are happening, when they're happening, where you can view them. And then also recaps from the meetings. And it sort of changes in, the format changes a little bit. We're always kind of playing with it, but you'll find that information pretty much anytime you look there. The city budget guide, that's something we've done every year. That's sort of like a foundation of our work. So we really work to break down the city budget as it's published by the city. Like if you read it, if you get the document from the city, it's hundreds of pages long. It reads like a financial document. It's really just dense and not very user friendly unless you're very familiar with finance and looking at budgets. So we try to break it down. We move things into those sectors that you saw earlier, and we really try to show where money is being spent. So we have a budget workshop coming up, I think on the 17th, and then one on later in June. I'll get those dates to you. But if you're interested in going to those, those are really good opportunities to understand how the city is spending its money and what it's valuing, and to sort of examine whether those values fit your own. That's kind of how we think about it. And then we have local issue explainers, where we kind of dive in deeper into specific issues. Like we've looked at transportation, school funding, affordable housing, really like break those issues down and find out, what is the city doing? How can you get involved? What are the sort of the major points that you need to understand to sort of get into that issue a little bit deeper? So one of our bigger programs, we kind of started it last year, and it's really like rolling this year, as our Civic Artist in Residency program. So we did this whole selection process. We're sort of in the winding down in the selection process. But we were trying to find 3 artists that either lived or worked primarily in Fayette County, and then embed them in city government. So they'll be working with 3 different departments in city government, like 1 per department, to sort of reimagine how those departments, communicate and work with each other and like within government, and also how they communicate and work with the public. As we're sort of reimagining that like communication and even like work in city government. So we're really excited about that. We're in the selection process now, and we should have our artists selected by the 14th. So stay tuned for that. And we're really excited that they are from Fayette County, or they're like from the surrounding area. We didn't do a national call. We thought it was really important the artists come from Lexington, and we're offering a $15,000 stipend for it's a 13-month residency. So it's a really big program. We were super excited to be able to do that, and we got help from NEA. We received a really generous grant from the NEA to be able to do this program. Our Voices, that's another big thing that we're doing. It's a partnership with the Herald Leader, with Radio Lex, and let's see, Key News Journal, and ourselves. So that was something we wanted to do, especially after the Mayor's Commission on Racial Justice and Equality came out last year. We wanted to kind of focus more on those issues and bring them into the Herald Leader a little bit more. So we created Our Voices as a platform, sort of an op-ed takeover, where writers in Lexington got the opportunity to work with editors, with Peter Baniak and Linda Blackford, and then Patrice Muhammad from Key News Journal. So they got to work with them and then publish op-eds about those topics in the Herald Leader. And we've so far published 3. And then Radio Lex is doing an awesome sort of podcast with each series. So we have 5 total, and we're on our 3rd. We just published our 3rd, it was last weekend. And so we're on our 4th round now, and that is on, we just closed our 4th round. That's going to be in public health, and the final is on law enforcement and the justice system. So if you know anyone who would like to write for that, please contact us. We're offering $250 per piece for the writer. So it's another, we really want to pay people for their work and their time, and we're happy to be able to do that. So again, we're really excited about our Voices project. Another thing we're working on is Redistricting Lexington. We have hired a redistricting fellow, Gabby Mason, who is a 2nd-year law student. So she's leading our sort of like redistricting program. But we really want to educate people on how the redistricting process works in Lexington and how they can get involved and sort of like get their voice heard. We're also thinking about doing a redistricting competition in the falls that would give people an opportunity to actually create maps of their own And if the competition goes, according to plan, there'll be a vote, and the highest scoring maps will be passed on to the redistricting committee in the city to possibly end up as the plan, like one of the plans. So that's another thing. We're doing book clubs. So if you're interested in this, please contact me again, or Richard, or info at CivicLex. We can get you more information about that. And we're probably going to do some movie nights as well. There's an Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary about redistricting that we're trying to see if we can get the rights to it. To show, to just stream and kind of do a public movie night. So stay tuned on that. And then public comment, another big project that we're doing. So we're working with the city to overhaul its public comment process. Right now, it doesn't really work that well for the city, or for, for city staff, or for residents mostly, because a lot of the public comment happens sort of at the end of the process, where legislation is moving through, or an issue is moving through city government. So we want to get to where we start that public comment process a lot earlier, and also make it something that's just sort of included in a lot of things the city does, instead of just these major issues. So how do we facilitate comments, in conversation and dialogue between government and between the people in Lexington? So we have a survey out now. You can go to the survey at this link. And we just want to hear people's feedback on, what's working and what's not working, how they imagine it could be better, so we can take that information to the city and start developing a better plan. So that's just some of what we're working on. It seems like we're always adding things. We're working on civic education curriculum development that we might be deploying in K through 12 schools in Fayette County. So that's another thing we're working on. And I would also say we really want to be able to offer all of our resources and information programs in other languages besides English. Most of what we have now is just in English. So if you all know of any resources, or translators, anything like that, who could help us out in getting all of this into a more accessible format for the people in Lexington, we would absolutely love that. And for more information, you can go to civiclex.org. You can email me, it's megan@civiclex.org, or info@civiclex.org. It's just our general email address. So that is CivicLex. I will stop share. That's us. That was a lot. I kind of talked fast. I'm sorry about that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them. Otherwise, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Megan. That's I mean, it's a lot, because you guys, CivicLex is an amazing organization. We're lucky here in Lexington to have such a good organization and such a good group that is leading that organization. And I'm lucky to be part of the programming board. And it's always really good to see all the work that they're doing, all the ways they're trying to reach out to many people. And yeah, if anybody has any questions, go ahead. I want you to, Megan, if you can just comment a little bit more about the new round for our voices. What is the topic and how can people sign up?
Yeah, sure. So the final round, we just closed. I wish we had not closed the round yet for public health, because this is the fourth round is going to be on public health. So looking at how racial disparity and racism affects people's access to healthcare and their experiences in healthcare. So that round just closed. But our final round is going to be on law enforcement and the justice system. So if you know anyone who has been affected by that, or wants to talk about that, maybe studies it and knows a lot about the topic, we encourage you to apply. You can go to civiclex.org. And if you go to our programs, you'll see our voice. I'll put the link in here. But we have an application. It's just a short application, just pretty much your name, your contact information, and what you would want to write about. And I think we can take 6 writers. And so far we've been getting anywhere from 5 to 9 submissions per round. So we're definitely looking for more writers. We'd love to hear from you. So again, feel free to share that link out to anyone you might know who would be interested.
Thank you, Megan.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity to speak here today. Appreciate
it. Any other questions?
Megan, could you maybe speak a little bit about On the Table? Because I think some people know On the Table and the history that you've had with that. Are we moving forward to doing that in the immediate future?
I know we talked about it in the last programmatic board meeting. So we were set to, we organized and we were set to like roll out on the table last year. And then we had to cancel it literally the week before it happened because of COVID. So we were really sad about that. And at our last programmatic board, we talked about, sort of if we could bring on the table back for next year. And I just got a message from Richard saying like, yes, we will be. So yeah, so if you all are interested in that, we had a huge sort of advisory board as part of it to try to get as many people and, sort of groups and just people in Lexington represented in that as we could. So if you all are interested in being part of that process, I know we'll be organizing another, huge advisory board and we welcome you to join us in that journey. It's crazy, but we're excited about it. We were super excited about it last year and it was a shame we didn't get to go forward with it, but I think it'll be even better in 2022. It's crazy.
I have a question on the comments on the chat. How many people do you have in your advisory board?
It depends on I would say like with our voices, we have a bit fewer. We have, I think it's like 5 people on our board, just like the main editors and people involved with those, news publications. But the others with On the Table, I think there were like 30 people, 25 or 30 people on that. With our voice, or not our voices, with the CARE program, the Artist in Residency program, we have about 20, 25 people. So quite a few. I would say each, for our major projects, we have around 20 to 30 people on each board. Oh, that link's not working. I'll put the link in the chat. I'll find that for you all. Look at that. Yeah, so it's kind of like whoever we can think of or recommend, from the sphere of people living in Lexington, we try to get everyone on our board. When do we meet? Those advisory boards are like for these programs so far, they're already set. We usually meet once a month, but you can also, we have working groups too. And I think the public is invited to join those working groups. So with the Artist in Residence program, we have our evaluation working group, which is going through and just saying like, okay, is the program doing what we want it to do? And is it effective? We also have an equity working group. So that's sort of like looking at the project as a whole, sort of like kind of involved in every part of the planning process of it and the execution process of it. So we would, definitely invite people to meet on that one, invite the public in on that one. And that meets every second Wednesday of the month. And I can send Victor all of this information. If you want to like send it out to the rest of the group, that would be fine. Mm-hmm. That means, hold on 1 second. That means at 12. So it meets at noon on Wednesday. Sorry to ask my coworker, because I'm not in charge of that meeting yet. And then we have our artist selection group, but that one's kind of winding down since our selection process is done. And that meets I believe it meets the 3rd Thursday of the month at 4. So, but again, that one's winding down. So after next week, we won't really have anything. Do we have an affordable housing group? No, we don't. That would be something that would be interesting to bring on. Yeah, I think that would be great. Email me with your ideas and we can bring that up at a programmatic board meeting. Our programmatic board meets the 3rd Thursday of the month from 5:30 to 7. Victor's on the programmatic board, so you can let me know if I'm wrong. And Wendy is too. Yes, so I can send out that link if you all want to join in on that and sit in. That would be great.
How can people sign up on the newsletter?
Newsletter, I think you can just go to CivicLex.org. There should be a button, if you click to sign up for that. I'll put all this stuff in the link or in the chat as well, so you can do that. Mm-hmm.
Megan, do you want to tell them a little bit about the website and how great?
Website? Yeah, sure.
Yes,
Sure.
how great that is?
Wendy. So our website, definitely go check that out. It's civiclex.org. It's got all of our programs on there. It's also got a lot of ways, sort of tutorials on how to get involved in local government, like how to go to a city meeting or what to expect if you've never been, like, you know, where to park even, or, you know, where to go when City Hall, or how to watch it on Zoom, since they're not really doing public meetings right now. Oh yeah, sure, I can share it. Hang on one sec. And then we have information again about all of our programs. We have a lot of educational things, like all of those issue explainers are on our website as well. Let's see. I will screen share again. Thank you for your questions. This is really neat. I wasn't expecting. Most of the time when you do like presentations, nobody asks questions. Okay, so this is our website. You just click on civiclex.org. So you go to about, this is all about us, all about our boards, our staff, all that kind of stuff, where our money comes from. Most of it's grant funded and just like small donors, individual donors. So we're really fortunate to have a base of support here in Lexington. Take civic action, sort of like things that you can do or information that you might need to know if you want to advocate about a certain issue or just get more involved. So we have the basics. These are all things like, how do you get involved? We're working on neighborhood association stuff. That's like Wendy's pet project, which has kind of been put on the back burner a little bit, and we need to pick that back up. So I apologize on that. But we have information like how to look at the city's website, because it can be a little bit confusing. And again, we'd really like to get all this translated, because there's so much information here, and it's just a shame that it's only in English. It's really frustrating for me. And this is, getting involved, best way to advocate, just little tutorials and things. It's really neat. Little load. Oh man, looks like our links are broken. Some of our links are broken. Not good. So we'll check that out. But then other things like, how does the city budget work? Hopefully this link works. Yeah. So we have a ton of information since the mayor just released their budget, or her budget, a couple weeks ago. We've got our budget guide up, how to read it, when things happen with the budget, sort of like the timeline for creating the budget. So you can read all about that, how it's structured, what are the different funds, what do they do, how to read the actual document if you want to look at it that way, sort of like what each column and line means, and then how to get more in depth in it. So we really, that sort of takes up our spring, I feel like, is budget work. So it's a lot of just like how to get involved, our issue coverage here. We usually follow one major committee meeting, or like there's a committee meeting that happens every week, and there are different committees. So we'll usually highlight what's going on in those committee meetings. And so we've got all this budget information here. And then before that, the police collective bargaining agreement was a big topic, local small business stimulus. So we try to cover these like bigger issues that come through committee meetings and budget work sessions every week. So that's a big part of our work. And then our programs, you can go through, all of our programs are here, and you can read more about them. Our places, you can, let's see. Yeah, so here's our open call for writers. You can apply here. And we also have an application worksheet you can download. And if you have any questions, again, email info@CivicLex. But it goes through, it's got all of the writers, and we update it once it's published. So all the writers have a portrait that's done by the Herald Leader, and then their pieces, which is really great. And then, let's see, for public comments. Yeah, I'll make sure, we'll fix those links today, but that's how you find it. So just go to programs and public comment. And once those links work, people do actually take the survey. Let's see if this works. Yeah, so you can even take it from there. So I'll drop this in the chat. Stop sharing. Thank you. All right. Any other questions? Oh, go ahead.
I think also one of the other things you might want to talk about is how there is not any civic programs in our schools, and what CivicLex might be doing to help that problem.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like that is an issue we want to address. Like our, like as Wendy said, like our civic education and just the school system is just sort of declined over the decades, I would say. and even like looking back at my own sort of civic education, you know, in middle school and high school, like wasn't that great. Or that comprehensive, I would say. So that's something we're working on bringing to Fayette County. Another of our board members, Carly Mutertees, is a PhD in civic and social studies education. She does a lot of work on curriculum development, and she's working with like a nationwide organization that's developing civic education curriculum. So we're partnering with her, and then Generation Citizen, which is the national organization to bring civic curriculum to K through 12 schools in Fayette County. So it's still in its very early stages, but we're really excited about it. It's kind of just moving forward now. We were kind of in maybe like meeting stages where it was just like, okay, let's talk. Okay, let's talk some more. Let's talk some more. But now we're moving forward with it. We have the context that we need. We have sort of like all the documentation and sort of our expectations for the program. So that's moving forward. So it'll be sort of an opt-in for teachers. Ideally, it would be any teacher who is interested in bringing this kind of way of learning about civics to their classroom. It's not just social studies teachers. You could be, you know, teaching math or science and looking at how those subjects interact with civics. But yeah, it's an opt-in for teachers who want to start working with that curriculum, and we'll possibly, most likely, be hiring a director of civic education. So if you know anyone who would be interested in that position, to sort of coordinate all of this and get it rolling with schools and with teachers. Again, email me if you have any questions or are interested about it, because I'd love to talk with you more about that.
Thank you so much, Megan. Any other questions? So we don't have any more questions.
Anything I forgot, Wendy?
Well, that was great. And yeah, everybody just follow up those links. Thank you, Megan. Yeah.
Megan, thank you.
You're welcome.
You guys do a great job, and I think that this is the way that we solve the problems that we're talking about in MNC. And that's why both Victor and I thought that you guys would be a great speaker, because we need to get people involved and we need people to have their voices heard.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you all. Appreciate it.